Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to End the Simpademic. I am coming to you on a Friday. And Jamie, if you're watching this, I am not using company time. This is my day off. So I'm not using company time. I'm using my time on this one. I know this is one of your biggest criticisms of my channel. One of the reasons why you stalk me and harass me continuously. Well, that's actually not the reason. It's just an extension of it. Because you're an asshole. And most people know it. But anywho, that's not what I'm here for to talk about today. I'm here to talk about a demographic disaster that America is heading into, as well as much of the Western world. It is our declining fertility rates. Why do we have a declining fertility rate? Well, let me first discuss what this new metric is. The fertility rate is the number of children birthed by women who are considered to be fertile within the particular age range of generally considered of fertility, which for the sake of this metric they consider as between 25 and 35. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but that is the number that they usually go with. And replacement level, if you're calculating it by woman, theoretically the number to balance out the population long term is 2.0. Obviously, you need to replace both partners in a parenting situation. It would be 2.0, but for the sake of this metric, they consider replacement level to be 2.05. And the reason for that is childhood mortality, infant mortality, things like that. Obviously, we have to overcome those tragedies, but unfortunately, that's been with us since the beginning of the race, of the human race. So 2.05 it is. And the country as a whole right now is at 1.70. Which means that each generation right now in the United States is going to be 30% less than the generation that preceded it. Our population naturally is going to decline. Now, some people have suggested but mainly by a lot of people on the left, that immigration would overcome this deficit. It can mitigate it, but there's not enough possible immigrants out there to offset that kind of a shortfall. Not to mention, a lot of these immigrants are here to do us harm, and they do not contribute to the overall economic viability of the United States. Again, I will add that many of whom who are here legally do contribute to these metrics and contribute to our economic viability, but many of them do not. So that's not a solution for the fertility rate issue. The problem with the reason why we have a fertility rate problem is multifold, obviously. Economics is one of them. I will readily admit that. Many people have decided that, it's economically not viable to raise children anymore, and they can't necessarily afford it. That's fair. But I think what we've got here are cultural influences on two extremes as far as relationships between men and women are concerned. One of those, of course, is the extreme feminism that we see infiltrating the country these days. This is the type of feminism that is represented by extreme feminists such as Angela Belcamino over on X, who says that I'm 42, I'm child-free, I'm a bold liberal. Well, you're liberal, but you're also boldly harmful and stupid. So this extreme is just, this is poisonous content on social media that is influencing women to decide to be single and child-free. Now, on the men's side, we also have an equally harmful, more on the opposite side of the spectrum, politically, but still just as harmful, and that's MGTOW. MGTOW is an acronym for men going their own way. These are men who've just dropped out entirely. Like their bold liberal counterparts, they've dropped out entirely of the dating game. A lot of women and men have decided that for those reasons presented by that social media poison content, that they just don't want it anymore. I'm 52. I can't have any more children. So this doesn't include, if you're in my particular age bracket, this does not include you. Man or women, by the way. If you're 52 and you're a female and this is your boat, I'm not speaking to you. I am speaking to you, both men and women, if you're in your early 30s and 20s. You are the people who are the target of this rant. Please stop consuming the poisonous social media content that's out there. This is a train of thought by two of my favorite social media content makers. Of course, I've talked to you guys about Billie Ray Brandt before. She has repeatedly said, and I have shared on this channel before, that the MGTOW manosphere creates content that rage farms through AI, is narrated by AI, and is curated by AI to create rage against women and an endless dopamine hit to validate your self-pity. And then on the man side, we also have a sort of manosphere creator by the name of Levi. And he, as much as he makes fun and, jokes about 304s and certain women who are gold diggers, etc., which is, partially true. But he also maintains on his channel that we are better together. And he's right. And listen to the voices that are going to guide you to a better future and not cause you to have an endless dopamine hit of rage. Levi is right. Billie Ray is right. We are better together. And as far as these values are concerned, the Census Bureau recently came out with their usual annual estimates of population with certain demographic figures. And I'm talking about that particular fertility rate again. Of course, as I mentioned previously, the United States is at a rate of 1.70, which is naturally a steep population decline. However, there's one state right now which is beating the 2.05 fertility level. Anyone want to take a guess at what that state is in the comments before I share it with you? That state is North Dakota. As you probably can guess by now, North Dakota is a more traditional state, culturally, in faith, and in many other ways. People tend to marry young up there. I've seen it in person. The jokes about people on the farm marrying at age 21 or 22. Yeah, these women are getting wifed up at an early age up there. The good ones anyway. Because that's been their long-standing belief there. I think of my grandparents who are no longer with us, who shared a farm in rural northeastern North Dakota. Even north of Grand Forks. I used to always joke that they weren't on the Canadian border, but you could see it from there, but 40 miles away to be specific. You couldn't quite see it from there. But nonetheless, the traditions are still culturally in play and part of their fabric. Thus, their birth rate is strong enough, 2.20 to be specific, for there to be natural population gain. It's even high enough to offset deaths, within the elderly population, which is significant in that state because a lot of people who grow up and live in North Dakota never leave. And for good reason. It's a safe state. It's secure. Crime is very low. And right now, economically, it's a strong place. So for their birth rate to not only outstrip their natural loss of population, but also enough to offset also to naturally replace the people who are already there. They are the one state. The one state, right, there's also one state that is keeping absolutely even at the 2.05 rate, and that is South Dakota, for the same reasons. Economically viable, same cultural forces are in play in South Dakota as they are in North Dakota. They could culturally very easily merge into a single Dakota, and indeed that's what the original plan was. I can't remember exactly why they were created as two different states. In 1889, they both actually gained their statehood at the exact same time. North Dakota is considered the 39th state. South Dakota is considered the 40th. Even though the bill that created the two different states was signed exactly at the identical same time by President Benjamin Harrison. So these states are bucking the demographic trend because their culture values relationships, families, marriage, and things like that. Gender roles are still largely intact up there. So these, and even in net internal migration within the United States, North Dakota is actually winning that battle as well. You compare migration between North Dakota and Minnesota, North Dakota is winning. More people are moving from Minnesota to North Dakota than from North Dakota to Minnesota, which has not always been the case. Because, like for example, when my father was growing up, the ultimate ideal was always for rural North Dakotans to move to the Twin Cities. It is now in reverse. More people move from the Twin Cities to Fargo-Moorhead than move from there to the Twin Cities. Cultural economy and crime are role players on that. North Dakota even has a better net migration in relation to the state of Texas, which is just a new, very recent trend and a new finding. And I'm just like, why would anybody move from Texas to North Dakota? Moving from a subtropical state to a bitterly frozen cold tundra. Well, again, there's an attractive family dynamic, an economic one, and a faith values one. Of course, Texas is in the Bible Belt. They can actually relate to the values in North Dakota fairly comfortably. And so yes, more people are moving from Texas to North Dakota than the other way around. Of course, Texas has more people to lose, so there's more people that are available to move there. So that makes sense too. We are in dire need of a cultural dynamic shift in this country. The country right now with the worst fertility rate is actually South Korea, which is where the stupid 4B movement began, where women swear to abstain from sex and to withdraw themselves from relationships and to basically never have any children. Their birth fertility rate is 1.26. According to the math, this means that the entire South Korean nation will go extinct by the year 2200. May happen sooner, may happen faster, depending on what they can do to address this particular rate. And for just in case for anybody who's morbidly curious, the situation in North Korea is not much better. Their fertility rate now is 1.44. Of course, their reasons are extremely different than that of South Korea. Theirs is a matter of a tyrant that will do anything to maintain power, including economically starve his country, and his people, and build up a nuclear weapons program in order to maintain power. Their people economically cannot give birth or raise children. Their healthcare system is a disaster. They are actually physically incapable of doing it. That 1.44 result represents the fact that the healthcare and neonatal healthcare is so poor, and the fact that people are literally starving to death over there. Obviously, people are starving to death. They can't give birth to any more children. So anyway, that's just a tangent there, just for anybody who's curious. And as long as he's sending his soldiers off to die for Vladimir Putin in Ukraine, it's not going to get any better, because they're actually losing their youngest people in that particular regard. So it's time for a cultural shift. It's time to stop consuming the negative, rage-farmed social media content out there, AI generated, or in the case of Angel Bel Camino, an extremist take. Because I think the survival of our country is at stake. These numbers prove it. It's just, you can't, if you're confronted with the numbers like this, you just can't deny it. And for a channel called End the Simpademic, no, simping is not the solution to that. It's not, that doesn't create solid foundations for relationships at all. It doesn't cause more children to be born, probably less, because now women can take advantage of men and get resources that they may not necessarily be worthy of. If these men are so obsessed with these women, they're willing to give up everything that they have, financially, resources-wise, and time-wise, without the relationship, then why are they going to have a real relationship? They're going to actually wind up friend zoned, which also hurts the overall numerical trends. So anyway, that is my extensive rant for a Friday evening. Right now it's in the 30s here in Minnesota. Pretty not bad out there, you know. However, it's going to be in the single digits below zero, teens below zero over the weekend starting on Saturday. So if you're in the North Country with me, even in the Dakotas, as I mentioned, keep yourself warm, keep yourself safe, and weekend's coming up. Don't do anything stupid. Don't drink and drive. Don't add to that mortality rate that I'm talking about. Stay safe. Stay warm. Guys, have a great weekend. I myself am trying to get well, which is why there was no episode yesterday. My apologies for anybody who happened to be looking for one, but it didn't happen because I really couldn't talk that well. Still can't, but I'm here. Anyway, y'alls, have a great weekend. Be kind. Be respectful, especially my comment sections. You have a great day and weekend.